What are we doing
Yeah.
with the money that we get? How can I help influence the people around me throughout all of the businesses? I've had over 50 companies post revenue. What's nice is the passion behind getting up in the morning and knowing that there's going to be challenges in front of you and you're going to overcome them.
Do you have ADHD? Odds are you probably do. I have it. A lot of founders have it. A lot of people that are starting businesses have and function with ADHD. And today's guest, Zach Booker, talked about how he started his company ADHD Online, which was meant to help kids with ADHD, but I think he uniquely understood it because he has ADHD himself. And his business track record shows it. He went from running a barber shop to running a roofing company to being a volunteer fireman. I think you're going to learn a lot from today's interview with Zach Booker. I'm Mike Sudik. This is Faith in Tech. Well, Zach, thanks for being here, man. You're a local legend. You may or may not know it.
Yeah, thanks.
But the reason I wanted to have you on is just you have an entrepreneurial journey that, you know, has had some exits, some selling of companies, buying companies, but I know you've had some pivotal moments in your faith as it relates to all those businesses. Yeah. So to start things off, when did you first get like the entrepreneurial bug? When did you know, or what was your first venture? Maybe your first failure, because I know for me and some, like I ran a painting business and I had some early failures that taught me a lot of lessons really quickly, really hard. So tell me a little bit about like some of your first entrepreneurial ventures.
Yeah. So it's a good question. My entrepreneurial spirit really came from, I would like to say, my family. So I was influenced by a lot of my family who owned their own businesses. Most of them owned beauty businesses. What was interesting is they all competed against each other. So everybody had their own barbershop or salon or school. And it was quite interesting to be able to grow up in that, as well as a real estate aspect. So my father had a lot of rental properties around the area. So I grew up with that grit, work ethic where you got to do it. Go figure it out. And so at 11, and I always mention this story, but us at 11, you know, we're all naive and, you know, I mean, we haven't even, our brains haven't fully developed. Some question mine even today, but we have, you know, that period as a child where we have aspirations to want to be everything. You know, I wanted to be a ninja detective or whatever.
Yeah. I still have those aspirations. I still want to do a million different things.
We still want to do that. You're right. Yeah. It's always dreaming. So what was interesting, though, was I noticed a lot of my neighbors were doing lemonade stands. And I was like, oh, man. And they're all competing against each other because I grew up in Georgetown Forest. Yeah. So it was a very, you know, tight area, a lot of houses, a lot of kids. And so what I did was I was able to have multiple lemonade stands where my neighbors would man the stands, and I would go around and replenish the ice and replenish the lemonade, essentially, and any marketing materials. And then I would collect my percentage from all of the...
At 11? At 11. You had a franchise of lemonade stands.
I was just riding my bike, collecting percentage,
awesome.
which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That, you know, launched into, you know, many of the other endeavors that I got into.
Yeah.
But,
So then you went into that. That's amazing. That at 11, you could figure that out. I wouldn't even know. You just trying to figure out how to start a lemonade stand, much less running a franchise. So that's awesome. So then fast forward, you get into, you know, the beauty businesses, barbershops. You know, speak to that a little bit.
Sure.
Like your pivot into that.
Yeah. So, well, before I get into there, much like you, I was involved in many businesses that had a low barrier of entry. Didn't require a lot of capital, but required a lot of time or, you know, workmanship. For that, we did a lot of, like I had a detailing company, you know, mortgage brokerage, these kind of things that didn't require, you know, a lot of governance or, you know, bureaucratic channels you had to navigate. And there were a lot of successes, but a lot of failures. And then I tried to evade the beauty business as long as I could until my mid-20s. After many companies at that point, a lot of failures again, a few successes, then allowed me to be able to go to barber school. So I went to barber school in my mid-20s. Wow. And
that was part of, so you went there to understand more of the business. So you're like, hey, I'm going to get into this business. I need to go to barber school. I need to understand it. I need to understand the mechanics of what they're actually doing.
what was interesting is I saw barbering as a dying industry, as something that looked like a challenge I wanted to take on.
Yeah.
So I got my barber's license in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
Wife and I had to navigate the financial pivots of having to do that in, post-school era.
Yeah.
Because I still am a college dropout.
Yeah.
So no degree. But once I got that, I was able to then go buy a barbershop after I graduated, and then built out a barbershop from 2010, and beyond.
So barbershop, tell me about that business, because that to me seems like you said, well, I guess you have a little more governance, you have a little bit more higher degree of entry than maybe like detailing or something like that. But what did you learn getting into that you didn't even realize that you didn't know when you actually, so you go to barber school, you're like, okay, I understand the mechanics of, it's kind of like, I love the book, The E-Myth, if you've probably read that book, where it talks about I think he talks about like an artisan or a craftsman or something, right? And then this lady that wants to make cakes, and then she opens up a cake store and realizes that that's only a part of the whole operation. You got to know all this other stuff. And if you think like just a craftsman or an individual barber, then you're going to fail at some of those other business areas. So tell me a little bit about like that journey with that.
Yeah. So I had a little bit of that maturity of understanding the business or administrative side.
Yeah.
And then applying that into the craft, which is barbering. Yeah. So at that time, you needed 2,000 hours of schooling to be able to then go take the license exam at the state level. So that took about a year to do. And that required more hours than a cosmetologist at that point. But you learn a little bit less. Like, you learn a lot as a cosmetologist, and you're required to have 1,500 hours. For barbering, I saw it as a deeper challenge because of the more macro issue of barbering as a dying trade.
Yeah.
Wanting to revitalize it, right? Having something special to be able to hold my hat on, especially being a fourth generation barber.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome as well. To be able to have that accomplishment. But when I started the shop, and I think what you're getting into is more of applying the craft and navigating more of that governance of hiring, of customer relations, of now tax navigation, of what do you do with the profits? At what point do you reinvest into growth? At what point do you decide to tithe, or do you decide to, generously give to an organization? What do you do, after your craft has been complete for the day, and you're left with now the outcome, which is usually financial.
So did you want to then grow those? I mean, you had a barber shop. Yep. You already had existing businesses that were, you said your fourth gen. So tell me about that. Like, hey,
Yep.
Yeah, where to go from there?
So much like the trend of the other relatives, I competed against them as well, and it made for interesting family dynamic. At that time. But what was cool was just to be able to see the different paths that we took. So I decided that I wanted to see barbering not only survive but thrive.
Yeah.
And I think at that point I was able to set my sights on scale. Mm-hmm. What would it look like to increase the exposure of the craft across the West Michigan area?
Yeah.
So that's when my wife and I decided to open, a second location, and then a third location, and then get involved in more of that family business in a deeper capacity. So ultimately opening a school for barbering, which was the first school, I believe, in 20 years that the state has seen open. So it was an interesting journey.
So what'd you learn? Was that like a success in terms of, did it match what your expected outcomes were? Or like, tell me about that. I mean, that's like you kind of did that, and then I know you had a pivot after that. But tell me about the mental, emotional journey in there.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I'm wired a little differently, and we're all unique in that way.
Yeah.
Where we all think we're wired differently.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities with us all entrepreneurs when we all get together and get in a room of visionaries. But what I noticed was I love helping people.
Yeah.
So when I was behind the chair and I was able to understand people where they're at, almost like the pseudo psychologist, which my father is a psychologist, so I grew up with that. But that pseudo psychologist offering a service, but truly understanding the individual, I was able to meet some interesting business owners and the challenges that they would be just forthcoming with.
Yeah.
And I was able to help them from a different aspect, different point of view, and many times from the failures that I've learned from prior to the barbering industry.
Yeah.
So many of the businesses that I owned prior to the barbershop, I was able to see the pivots and be able to share that knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately where I felt at home, was to be able to see what I can do to help other people like me.
Yeah.
So you're not alone,
Yeah.
right? Because as an entrepreneur, it's pretty lonely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't vent down, to the organization.
Yeah.
And you have nobody to vent up to.
Yeah.
So you look for peers that are like-minded, that ideally you would like to have share your same values, and just to be able to be open with.
Yeah.
So
So you got that in the barber place. Like you almost the third thing that came to mind was almost like a golf caddy, right? Where you're like, hey, I'm gonna provide the service, but I'm also going to be walking with you literally as a golf caddy. But you naturally hear the stories, the pains, the struggles, the wins, all of that. Like 100%. I didn't even think about that when you talk about like a barber.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you get raw with your barber, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this is what's going on with me, whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah.
And it gave me the ability to help them from the lens that I'm really familiar with, which is not only personal, but the business side of it.
Yeah.
I was able to articulate a lot of understanding of what they were going through.
Yeah. So you probably saw a little bit like the dark side too of like the pains of entrepreneurship, maybe at a different level than you hadn't experienced before.
Yeah. Those peaks and valleys are real.
Yeah.
I mean, you ride high and you ride real low.
Yeah.
At times, and it's sometimes hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when it's that low.
Yeah.
But it is good to have those peers or that counsel around you.
Yeah.
And that's what I encourage others to do, regardless of the barbershop experience. Surrounding yourself around people that are like-minded is crucial.
How do people find that though? Like I would agree 100% with that. And I've had somewhat mixed success with different groups. There's like, we were part of like the Family Business Alliance for a little while. That's really valuable. I was part of Rotary for a little while. Yep. They seem to meet my challenges or some of the needs and community I needed at the time for what was kind of the business was walking through. But what advice would you give to like maybe a young founder that's struggling with that is needing that community?
Yeah, those organizations are great.
Yeah.
And they have their value. What I found is how to continuously challenge yourself to get to utilize those resources and wider. I shouldn't say and more, because you don't want to inundate yourself with a ton of opinions, but you want to find that valued mentor or mentors that are able to walk alongside of you and challenge you. So one of the suggestions is being intentional around the friends that you make, around the business partners you get into business with, and just around the peers that you decide to surround yourself with. Have them be a good, diverse mixture of where you've been and where you want to go. Yeah. Right? Because they're going to challenge you.
That's a big distinction, though, like where you've been and where you want to go, because you have to have a mix of kind of where you've been and kind of where you're at, but then also what you're aspiring to be. Mm-hmm. And I think I agree with that 100%. So I didn't mean to cut you off. So
No, it's not. Yeah. And you feel it, right? As an entrepreneur, you're like, I feel a lot of vigor from being able to share the experiences that worked, but more importantly, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm able to share that with you, you're able to not only save money, but to save time and heartache and mental stress.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm just able to say, hey, I've done that, here's some pitfalls to watch out for.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is important in that is aligning values, because you might find yourself, in my experience, like you find yourself surrounded by people that have a different value system, but also just like a different desired outcome. You know, they're chasing something, and sometimes that comes down to like work-life balance or family or, you know, whatever that is. But I think that's a hard distinction, because then in my experience, you might be in these groups and see someone that's giving you advice, and maybe they're striving after something, and then that something doesn't actually come to fruition. And then you see they kind of burn some bridges along the way, and you're like, oh, that's an important lesson. Yeah. Oh, like I thought they had it, not like they had it all, but I thought I desired that outcome, but then I see that I don't really, because of how that transpired. So I'm kind of curious your path. You know, I know you have an interesting, story arc, if you will, from the beauty business to like the psychology, behavioral stuff.
Yeah.
And your faith weaves into that too.
So much.
And so, yeah, could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Zach?
Yeah. So real quick, I mean, I grew up with a mother that was very focused as faith as a priority, which was crucial to my understanding and success as a Christ-centered entrepreneur. But I had my father, who challenged faith and challenged the church.
Yeah.
And although I see it, it was healthy in a sense to be able to challenge, to understand truly what it means to be a Christian. My parents were divorced, so I still had the differing of opinions.
Yeah.
I didn't have the collaborative, united front when it came to parenting. So I had to make decisions for myself, and many times I felt myself stray away from the true reason of why I am, the way I am, or why God has given me the skill set and the gifts that I have.
Yeah.
And it was tough as a child, and tough even as an adult. So segueing into the journey, throughout all of the businesses, I've had over 50 companies post revenue. Right, a lot of failures, a lot of successes. Have allowed me to do what I'm doing today. But what's interesting is many times, many inflection points in that journey, God has brought me back, and I don't know if there's a helicopter on the roof or what.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We got some crazy noise going on.
But they're sorry. That is ADHD, by the way.
That totally is. Which that's an important part of entrepreneurship, because you have to be always looking for all the new business opportunities.
So many. Yeah. And that's probably
it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. That's probably why I'm in 25 today. But the thing is, in 2018. God gave my wife and I the ability to exit the beauty business, and the industry, and we felt called that at that time it was a good opportunity. I took a month and a half off to be able to understand like what's the next chapter look like in my life, and I partnered with a doctor, and we ended up starting a mental health care company, and we wanted to help people like us. So we both have ADHD, and we wanted to help the community that we are a part of, and it was just really cool to be able to do something that's passion filled. And I think that's as an entrepreneur, that's really why we start the things we do, not just because there's a market opportunity. That's a validation effect. What's nice is the passion behind getting up in the morning and knowing that there's going to be challenges in front of you, and you're going to overcome them. Based on your will, or the skill set God gave you. So all of that came together, and we were able to build something pretty awesome. That's when we started ADHD Online. And that was in 2018, and that continued to grow pretty fast. It was up and to the right, that big hockey stick effect. COVID hit, and that just accelerated it. That just added kerosene to that fire. And we offer diagnosis and treatment to not only just ADHD, but to anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders. Ultimately evolving to a nationwide company. Still headquartered in Grand Rapids. Still all the employees localized here. And had over 250 clinicians, I believe. It's hard to remember all these numbers. But it was an awesome success. But again, I felt myself getting away from the real reason. Because when you start to experience hyper growth or start to experience some level of success tied with stress, it tends to dilute. I guess it tended, and maybe this isn't a macro issue, maybe this is just my issue, where it tended to dilute my reasoning for getting up in the morning and doing what I do. You know, when I started the company, I'd get up 6 a.m., I'd be in the office, and I'd have all of my walls were whiteboard paint, and I would whiteboard. And at 6 a.m., have the music on, whiteboarding, loving it, and I felt myself pulling into a CEO gravitational pull. So away from the entrepreneurship. I'll expound. So as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of autonomy. You can pivot when you need to. You have your big vision. You think 30,000 feet up. And then you've got, your integrator. You got everybody, that's hardening the mission and the vision that you've created. When I transitioned from entrepreneur to CEO, it was a different mode that I had to get into. I had to get more into that governance, right? Now I have to set up a board. Now I have to be able to put these parameters around my day, and I've got to section, these things off because these tasks can only be completed by me, or these issues can only be solved by me. And it got away from that ideation, the brainstorming, the whiteboarding at 6 a.m., right? It started to become just different.
Is that a natural evolution, or is that like, there's entrepreneurs that typically entrepreneurs are like starters, right? So then when they get in that CEO role, it's kind of like time to cycle out, right? Or it's like, hey, time to start the next thing. So tell me about your journey with that. But I want to hear a little bit more about like what's under the surface faith-wise, and kind of how that's what's bubbling under the surface during that time as your responsibilities are changing, the stress is kind of going up. The growth is good, so growth is going to be more spinning plates, more things to do, more just like everything to manage. And so tell me about that.
Yeah. So exactly, it's being able to maintain the business and where it's headed, but then still keeping that intentionality about why you're doing it, and that's where it started to separate. And that's where God got me by the shoulders and said, "Hey, followed my path, right?
How do you do that?
This is my plan."
Tell me, Zach.
Oh, man. So 2023, we've had month-over-month growth for 5-6 years straight. Every month was a record month.
So you're doing great. Life is great. Why would you be stressed, Zach? Like, you're having this great growth. And from the outside, everyone's like, he's killing it.
Yeah. And then certain things, just transcended into my lap, where it was new stressor after new stressor, and then starting to ultimately say, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for the right reasons? So I decided to go on sabbatical, and I took 3 months off. Ultimately getting closer to my wife, closer to my kids, and closer to God.
That's awesome.
And
was there a moment that like crescendoed it, like
during the sabbatical or before the sabbatical? Before the sabbatical.
That motivated sabbatical, like that was kind of a line in the sand.
It really was. It was a culmination of a bunch of stressors that ultimately were inside and outside of life. And I'm sorry, inside and outside of business life, right? So personal and professional intersected at this like perfect storm. And I'm like, oh man, like I gotta shut it down. Shut my phone off, shut my computer, just go dark essentially for 3 months. And I'm so thankful I did. So thankful, because I ultimately look back and I'm like, I was getting away from the real reasons of why I was in this business. I wanted to help people. I wanted to, be friends with, my founders. I wanted to be friends with all of the people I surround myself with. And I got into that CEO mentality and jet setting and things like that where I wasn't home as much. And I'm putting 80 and 100 hour weeks in. And it wasn't for the right reasons.
Why do you think, was that were you chasing the success? Like, I got to psychoanalyze this a little bit.
Do it. Like, for sure.
Like,
I own a mental health company.
That's right. there's something to be said for going from entrepreneur to CEO. I think that's
Yeah.
like a natural progression.
Yep.
But you were on this path of like hyper growth. What would you say was motivating that? Was like a big exit? Was it like, hey, I just got to do what I got to do? Was it? Was there, hey, at this point, I think we'll be reached over the hill or something, and then you realize that, hey, that hilltop's been going higher and higher and higher every time.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I think it's an important thing, because that may have changed from the outset, right? You know,
100%.
when you start out, you're like, hey, what do we want to do here? We want to help people. You cared about the mission, but then you get a couple years in, and you're like, wait a second, time out. We're on different pages, whether you're your founder or you and your wife or whatever. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and when we started the company, I mean, my buddies and I, we were doing this as a passion business.
Yeah.
Right. Funding travel, with the families, a lot of cool things. But with hypergrowth, it changed our priorities pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then it continued.
Did you feel like the hypergrowth, you had to act on it?
Yeah.
Like, meaning you were getting this growth, you're like, hey, if we don't act on it, someone else is going to, or we're going to lose the business. Like,
so not only that, because that's the business side, but then on the personal side, if we don't continue to fuel this rocket, we're not going to influence the amount of people we should be influencing. We're doing the right things, and everything, highest standard of care, doing things with the right efficacy, showing that this is the way we should be doing it, but we're just doing it in a more efficient way than traditional healthcare. I felt like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't add fuel to this rocket.
Yeah.
So I went out, and we bootstrapped up until 2021. I went out and debt-free, profitable, month-over-month growth since we started. Massive amount of scale and success, and I said, I need help. I was the only full-time C-level member in the organization, and at that point I had 7 employees, and I just needed help. Because not only was I cleaning the toilets, but I was dealing with all of the national healthcare laws with our attorneys and things like that. So from one end of the spectrum to the next, so we ended up taking in venture dollars. And I raised our first round.
This is when is this?
2021.
21. Okay.
Yep. I raised our first round, and we continued to just grow. And I didn't spend that money for 8 months because we were continuing to make more and more money month over month, and then stockpiling, but still continuing to fuel. It was interesting because we were still adding cash to marketing dollars, but we were the only big player in the market because we were the first player. And when we started to get competition that entered our space, it started to change. That's when you started to harden as a CEO and say, okay, game on. Like, I'm going to go, and I'm going to knock this thing out of the park. So I went and raised more money, and continued to raise. I believe I raised $7.5 million, all out of Michigan and some out of Indiana, in a 2-year span over 3 rounds, all up rounds. And I was pitching 4 or 5 times a week for 2 years straight.
Wow.
And as a CEO, like that's where that changed. So no longer am I, and I get back, no longer am I whiteboarding. Now I'm pitching this company day after day to coastal VCs, to Midwest VCs, and ultimately the Midwest VCs were like, we love this. Let's keep it a Midwest story.
Gotcha.
So
So then you're doing that, and then you have to put that capital to work, right? Okay. So then that, I assume, the VC capital added a layer of stress and accountability, or maybe not.
100%. Because now you're accountable to a larger cap table. So now you've introduced new members to the cap table, and you are now responsible to your shareholders. Right. So again, the entrepreneurial mindset changed because as a CEO, you're responsible to the shareholders. What do the shareholders want? So you have a fiduciary responsibility to not only the employees, to your team, the C-suite, to your stakeholders, your shareholders, to your partners, and you have a family at home. All of this is just a lot of weight on that changeover from entrepreneur to CEO.
So what was the Lord doing in Zach's life at that point to like poke him and say, open his eyes a little bit. Yeah.
So many things, man. So many things.
Tell me.
But at that time, I didn't see them all.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't see. I had aspirations for wanting to. For 20 years, I've wanted to buy a Viper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think now I'm going to buy a Viper. I bought the Viper. I wasn't satisfied because now the goalposts were moved again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm doing this for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So I got away from that mindset. I sold all that, and now I drive my old truck.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that God challenged me in certain aspects of saying if you want it, you're going to go buy it, but it may not be a part of my plan.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad. Yeah. And maybe that was the point in which God made me, and I see it now, right?
Yeah.
When you buy it and you feel bad and you're like, well, this shouldn't be the feeling I get when I buy what I wanted to, or I acquire or achieved what I wanted to achieve. This isn't the feeling I'm supposed to have.
Yeah.
And maybe that's God saying this, this isn't the right direction.
Yeah.
So
which speaks to the motive behind why you wanted to achieve that, because I think there's a slant that people could say, well, big exits or business success is God's not interested in that. He's interested in these other things. But that's not necessarily true, because there's points at which he's calling you to start businesses that have big exits and do things.
Yes.
But when it's outside of the plan, which is what you're saying, you definitely didn't have peace about that. And you're like, okay, I got a timeout here. So yeah.
That was outside of the plan, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was totally not supposed to happen. I now see that I was not a good steward of the money that I earned.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I shouldn't have had this mentality around a non-generous giving heart.
Yeah.
And now that I see that, it years ago when I had this inflection point where God shook me and said, hey, you're not on the right path.
The top of the cap table came knocking, right? The ultimate shareholder, right?
Yep. The ultimate shareholder said, you are running a nonprofit life.
Yeah.
Start living like it.
You're running. So say this. Wait. Say that again. You're running a nonprofit life.
We're all running a nonprofit life. We can't take this with us.
Yeah.
So what are we doing with the money that we get?
Yeah.
Should I be buying a Viper? No.
Yeah.
No. How can I help influence the people around me?
Yeah.
To challenge them to get closer to God, closer to their family, closer to their passion.
Yeah.
Right. How can I do that? And I feel more satisfied in being able to help, just however I can.
Yeah.
Whether it's through an introduction, whether it's through capital infusion, or whether it's through a partnership of just walking alongside of another founder in their business, I feel way better. I feel much more peace at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day and I did that backwards, at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, when I do those things instead of buying the crap.
Yeah. Do you think though? So entrepreneurs aren't. Maybe I'm curious your answer to this. It seems like most entrepreneurs that I met are they love the process, not necessarily the outcome. I mean, some of them love the outcome, and everyone loves the outcome. I shouldn't say that, but it's like you. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but it's like you're understanding that, hey, this is the process. My alignment or my priorities around the process are different even than they were before. Meaning, I want to help people along the way. I didn't remove that desire to be successful. I don't assume, but you're saying, hey, along the way and part of that process, I want to do these things that are, the Lord's wanting me to do.
100%. So maybe I can help articulate. I ask a lot of my new business partners that I look to help grow their company with. I say, is this going to be a legacy business, or is this going to be an exit? Right? Are we going to run this business for 10, 15 years and seek a profit on a quarterly basis where we get distribution, or are we going to make a big splash and try and get this thing sold?
Yeah.
Either way is fine. Either
How
direction
often do
is
they
fine.
pivot in there?
Yeah, a lot of
They're
times.
like, oh, it's gonna be a legacy business. Oh, we'll exit. Or
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people, and I've dealt with this a few times.
Yeah.
No, I want to run this thing. I want my kids to take this over. And which is great.
Yeah.
There's certain stress points and inflection points in that business because businesses look very different at 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, and $25 million ARR. Right. These businesses look very different.
Yeah.
And mine did it especially. What's interesting is as those pivots happen or those challenges or those inflection points happen in that journey, their mindset starts to change, right?
Yeah.
Those peaks and valleys, remember we were talking about earlier? Those valleys start to change, maybe an exit is required.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to get out.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing this for the wrong reasons. Maybe if I just get a windfall of cash, I can steward that money in a different way.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
To think that way. Adverse to that, when you're running for an exit, now you're profitable. Now you're getting up and loving what you're doing.
Yeah.
Your customers are happy. Your employees are happy. Your family's happy. Everything's sunny side up.
Yeah. And then you're like, what am I going to do after an exit?
What am I going to do?
Like, I'm going to try to recreate this again, which I already have. Yeah.
Right. Do I want to start over?
Yeah.
Or do I want to continue to help others? It's not one way is better than the other, I guess. It just depends on the individual.
Yeah. So do you feel like doing some of that work with entrepreneurs and trying to help them sort through that, like how were they being counseled before that? I mean, because like some of those questions, like we spoke about before, having a network around you of mentors is a special thing. It's unique and special and rare. I think that you have founders or previous founders or mentors that can surround you with that, and that's doing some of that work with young founders is really important, especially if they're in an ecosystem like in tech where they're put into like an incubator or something, and they're pushed into this path that is the traditional path, which is like get VC money, grow it to an exit, get acquired, whatever.
Yeah.
And if that's the only deemed successful path, that could be really detrimental, right?
Yeah, very much so. So getting into the reasons of the why, right? The Simon Sinek. The why. But it truly is important to find people that are unbiased of the business and more bias or fiduciary to you as a person.
Yeah.
And finding those peers that may not have an interest in your company, but they definitely have an interest in your future.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the people that you try and surround yourself with. So one of the big points in my life is my wife and I moved a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and we moved really far, Jenison to Hudsonville.
Yeah,
so,
big move.
Huge move. But when we moved to Hudsonville, we ended up moving to a neighborhood that had, I think we have 20 kids on our road today.
Yeah,
like just a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Where our previous house we had no kids. My kids were just playing with each other.
Yeah.
And we had the acreage and all that, which was fun for them, but nobody to socialize with. When we moved over to our new neighborhood, it challenged them in a different way. Now it challenged them to be, more socialite. But it challenged us too. And this was a God moment.
Yeah.
By the way, God moved us next to the Verlees and John and Carrie. Just amazing human beings.
Yeah.
But
that's amazing that you moved right next to the.
Next. Yeah.
That was totally ordained.
It's totally a God thing, and it was really cool because it was in the middle of a day, in the middle of the week. I'd like to say it was a Wednesday, and my wife and I are out in the front lawn, and John and his wife are out in the front lawn, and I'm like, hey, shouldn't you be at work? And he's like, hey, shouldn't you be at work?
That's hilarious.
It was funny. And then we ended up just being able to, talk about life and what fuels us, how God challenges us with the skills he's graced us with. And John had this organization called Startup Garage that he started. And it's a faith-based incubator. Yeah. And he started it inside of university. It's Kelvin, which was his alma mater. And we were just sitting around the campfire in our backyard and saying, well, what if we could do this, but for every entrepreneur? Yeah. If help them, challenge them personally and professionally through a Christ-centered lens, and to be able to harden their passion around their mission, vision, values, and build out an organization that they're proud, to either run as a legacy or exit, and steward that money in a very efficacious way. And what if we're able to share those experiences with them, but do it for free?
Yeah.
Just give it away.
But so I think that's a great mission. And I would say, I want to segue a little bit on this because there's several outfits here in West Michigan that are trying to do that, and nationally that are saying, hey, we want to have the incubators, we got all this stuff, which if you follow down that road of how essentially what you're trying to do is build an ecosystem, right? And you have ecosystems like Silicon Valley that what do they have? They have like a university, they have exits, founders that have had big exits. Yep. They have a lore about them of all of this success and people that have come before them. So you have this like whole ecosystem of people to help them. There's been a lot of initiatives the last, I'm going to say 10 years in West Michigan to become a tech hub, to boost, entrepreneurship. And it's like, I don't mean to disparage those, but they've had differing degrees of success. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because to me, there's an underlying thing of what is our core, what's our DNA, and what's our mission, and how those align. So San Francisco is San Francisco. They have a DNA of huge risks. They have a bunch of exits that are in that same vein. So you have a whole formula for VC money, which is like, we know we're going to pump a bunch of cash in, and 1 in 10, 1 in 100 is going to be a 1,000-time exit or something, whatever. It's going to be a unicorn. And that's predicated on the whole model. That flows down in everything. So, okay, West Michigan is like, that's not us. That's because of our culture, because of all of this. But you still have, so you have to build based on what your ecosystem is and what your DNA is. And I think what you're doing is a little more in line with that because of all the reasons you just said, in this interview, which is the alignment with values, with alignment with purpose, with faith, all of that. And what's your intended outcome? Is it exit? Is it legacy? And I think that's a really delicate thing to try to, it's like a recipe with like a little bit of salt or something that's going to throw everything off, right? Yeah. So it's like, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. How do you compare that against other efforts? Not meaning to throw them under the bus, because that's not an easy effort, but it's not an easy thing to do. But how do you compare that against like what the initiatives that have been out there that have been trying to do that?
Yeah. No, I think everything was started with great intent.
Yeah.
Right. We have awesome organizations that all want to help in their own respect. And I think if you look at the Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap. Right. There's a significant amount of overlap where people are almost duplicating effort.
Yeah.
And I would love and strive for cross-pollination.
Yeah.
Right. How can we be able to maybe lessen the overlap, but definitely support the entrepreneur? Yeah. It's all about the entrepreneur. It shouldn't be about the organization. It should be about the mission.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm less interested, I guess, in ensuring that there's a tech hub, but I'm more interested in how can we help and support the tech founder.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an important distinction, though. I think to say that that's what the focus is, not an ideal that we're trying to chase, which is, again, I'm not trying to disparage any initiatives because I think they've done a lot of good work, but I think that is an important distinction.
I think one comes after the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I wish I had when I was a younger founder.
Yeah.
Is I wish I had more supportive resources around me, more supportive ecosystem to say, hey, we see what you're doing, whether it's a detailing company or whether it's a full-scale mental health, telehealth solution.
Yeah.
Either one, I think that doesn't matter. Either one is led by a founder.
Yeah.
And if we can help support that founder through the good times and the bad, and be able to showcase that Grand Rapids or West Michigan or the state of Michigan or the Midwest, whatever, is a place of healthy challenges and healthy resources that give you every opportunity to fail or succeed, but your way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't give them a playbook of saying, hey, fit in this box and this is how you should do it. We should know that playbooks are unique, right? There's set ideals on how to run a business.
Yeah.
But every business, every founder has different DNA.
Yeah.
And if we're able to intertwine that DNA, again, with Startup Garage, we use that Christ-centered lens, but challenge that founder. We're going to find more founders that desire that.
Yeah.
And that's where you change over from, from an organization that is spearheaded into one individual, and now you have a ton of individuals that desire, whether it's FOMO that you're creating, but you're going to see a lot of that support come through.
Yeah.
Exits do help, but that's from a VC standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So we've gotten some exits here in West Michigan, pretty prominent ones, and it's been great to see. Those founders have succeeded in their own respect, and VC dollars will probably continue to flow in because they're starting to notice that Grand Rapids is a place of healthy businesses, and if those healthy businesses are led by healthy founders.
Yeah.
Right. So if I can support the founder, that's where I'd like to start.
Right. No, I think that's important. I think that's even aspiring to get VC dollars isn't necessarily the right directional approach. It's like, hey, we got, and exits even, it's like, it goes back to how are we creating, I always see like a spectrum, and I know it's like a spectrum of you don't know what you don't know. And so you don't even know if that is what you did. Like you said before, where you have someone that desires an exit, or desires a legacy business, and then they pivot to an exit because they're like, hey, I don't actually want to do that. Well, that whole story, someone that has done that or on some level, being able to speak to someone at Startup Garage or something to say, hey, here's kind of what I learned. Like let me give you a little dose of perspective, not to say this is what you have to do and you should pursue an exit from the beginning. But I think that's a really important thing. It's not so much, it's not that we need a whole bunch of exits in West Michigan. We just need a whole bunch of people that have done some things that are collaborating and saying, hey, let me tell you the story. Let me offer a little bit of my insight, and let me look at what you're doing and kind of bounce around, some ideas or feedback.
Yeah, or introductions.
Yeah, introduction, that's huge.
How can we support and give resources to these founders, and how can we do it for free?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
For this in this conversation, it fuels me to say, like, let's not talk about it, let's be about it.
Yeah.
Right? Let's do something.
Yeah.
Let's take action, but I'm an action-oriented entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
People ask me, what hobby did you pick up? As you're getting older in age.
Yeah.
I'm 41 now.
Yeah.
So I'm getting older. I picked up firefighting.
Yeah. That's awesome. I remember you telling me that at lunch the other day.
Oh, man. I was like, what did God put in my path? I picked up firefighting as a hobby. And
that's amazing.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But I'm an adrenaline-fueled, action-oriented entrepreneur who just like, let's go.
Wait, so what was the path to picking that up? You got to tell me about that.
Okay, so my wife and I were praying after I decided no longer to be CEO, and I am now on the board of my mental health company. My wife and I found ourselves with time, and we were praying on how to serve.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to intentionally give back?
Yeah.
And I was driving by the fire station, and I had a funny quip about, and I wish I could remember it to this day, but it was a funny, firefighter quip, and I'm like, why don't I just do this? This it feels right. Like, I'm comedic. I love humor.
Yeah.
I love brotherhood, a sister, a family of people, of like-minded people. And we found that. So
that's awesome.
My wife found it at serving at my kid's school. I found it firefighting for my community.
Wow. And what have you learned from that? Like, other than adrenaline rush?
Yeah. Other than the adrenaline rush, I have found that these people that I'm serving with and for, again, are doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Blendon Fire Station. Those the men and women there that are serving are doing it for the right reasons.
That's what you want running into a burning building too.
Yes, burning building or a crash.
Or wherever.
Right, yep. Whatever it is. A lift assist, whatever it may be. You want them showing up at 2 a.m. doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That's amazing. Well, Zach, thank you for coming in, man. I really value what your role in the community, because I think you offer such a breadth of experience, like you said, that the highs and the lows, and then you're humbly wanting to say, hey, let's build this thing where we can channel all that experience and in a Christ-centered lens, it's more than just a lens. It's like, it's a worldview. It's everything. It's how you guys do everything. I know I spoke with John, a little bit ago, and it definitely is infused to what he does. That's what he's doing. He's being a steward, which is what that's what you're all about.
Such a great human. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely blessed to have people like him.
Yeah.
And like yourself. So thank you for doing this and for allowing us to have a voice. And the podcast is awesome. So
yeah. Well, thanks. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
See you, Zach. Boom.